Hey, that's pretty good. 125 to 116. The Raptors win against the New York Knicks, two in a row versus the Knicks. The winning streak is now at +1 after being at -2. Well, well done, fellas. 125 to 116, now at 21 and 27 on the season. Some really fun performances across the roster in this game. The defense looking better for long stretches, and the Raptors winning quite comfortably in this game, especially with a really nice stretch from a transitional lineup that featured some of the bench and a bigger lineup at the end there to start the fourth quarter. So, pretty fun. This is a Raptors Reaction Podcast. I'm your host, Samson Folk. Okay, 125 to 116. Let me say this right away. The Raptors are benefiting immensely from having a, let's say, center in the lineup. We saw this happen with Koloko, who, despite having significant warts on his game, his presence helped out defensively a lot. And in fact, even before he went down to the 905, where I think he reached double digits in blocks in his first game with them, we saw him have a significant effect on the on-offs. The Raptors were better with him on the court. So that was a cool thing. They need that center position, the one that the front office and, it seems like they've kind of shooed away from or shied away from and shooed away. Uh, it's important. On the other side, too, the Knicks, they didn't have Mitchell Robinson in this game, and they really missed him. A battle of the front courts, and the Raptors won this one. Whether you consider Barnes the power forward or Pascal the power forward, Achua was the center, and the Raptors defense really benefited from having him there for the second game in a row. Yes, some hot shooting brought the Knicks back into it, but for the most part, I think the Raptors did a really good job of keeping guys away from the interior and forcing misses there, which typically they're not that good at doing. Actually, just statistically, they're not that good at stopping drives to the rim. And they're also not very good at stopping the shots once those drives get there. So frequency, accuracy, whichever you're paying attention to, not very good. In this game, and over the past two games, they've figured it out to some degree. Also, 15 of 34 from downtown in this game. The Raptors hit their threes. Gary hit 6. Fred hit 4. Pascal hit 3. That's already 13 out of the 15, all coming from the starting lineup. So that's a nice thing to see. And the Raptors really needed that offense. And once again, Fred is in the lineup. The offense is pretty good. He's been a big deal for it. Nobody really is spreading a lot of assists tonight. Pascal and Scotty both around 6, both with 6 actually, I should say. And there's a mix of kind of playmaking at the nail when the Knicks are bringing help against Pascal, and then also get running out in transition, finding guys who are filling lanes. The 3-point shooters, especially Gary and Fred in this one. So nice to see. Also, defensively, the Raptors, I think, found a lot of success early and often by throwing a lot of attention at Julius Randle, who finished with 19 and 8, but also, well, 23, 19 and 8, I should say. Like 19 rebounds is kind of crazy, but this also speaks to where the Knicks were defensively. He had 14 defensive rebounds. The Knicks missing Mitchell Robinson, the Raptors looking to kind of make them pay, finishing with 17 offensive rebounds of their own. And despite putting up those massive numbers, I think Julius Randle had a lot more possessions and a lot less points created for the Knicks than he would have liked. The 4 turnovers isn't a massive, massive number, but I think that the Raptors did a really good job of moving the ball into the back of the shot clock, defending against the back end of the shot clock as much as they were defending in the front half, and just doing a fantastic job of making the Knicks go into their secondary stuff. And then is there a word for tertiary stuff, tertiary stuff, whatever it is, right? And forcing misses. And while that didn't last the whole game, they still cleared 30 points in the second, third, and fourth quarters. I think that the stretches they had defensively were largely because of aggressive trapping to open the game, and then a lot of length on the floor in the back half of the game before things got a little bit hairy. But the Raptors were scoring well enough to keep them at bay anyway. But that is why a guy like Chris Boucher and a guy like Juancho Hernan Gomez and Thaddeus Young, +14, +14, and +7 in that order. These guys were part of really big runs. Boucher with 5 offensive rebounds as well. These guys were part of big runs for the Raptors. and Boucher with 14 and 7 in this game. Juancho, 0 points, still not hitting his threes, but 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Thad had a couple nice isolation buckets. He finishes with 4 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. The Raptors, a little bit more capable of tapping into their Funk Fest quartet lineups. And by that, I mean they're playing at least 4 guys who are pretty big. And when you play guys all over the court that are that big, you're going to struggle offensively a lot of the time if there's nobody carrying that offensive lineup. Last season, they had a lot of success having Pascal Siakam do it. This season, and to start the fourth quarter, well, this season they haven't had that much success with it, but to start the fourth quarter, I think Scotty Barnes and Precious Achiuwa filling in next to these guys allowed the Raptors to blanket a lot of stuff defensively. They got a lot of runouts, and despite some of these possessions drying up and it coming down to shot making, it's not going to be something consistent for them, but it's something that happened in this game. They made a few shots at the back end of the shot clock. They got to the free throw line on possessions that looked dead. Precious finishing 8 of 10 from the line, for example. Scotty hitting like a sidestep 22-footer, right? And not a three, but as close to a 3-point shot step back as you can get without it being that. This isn't something that I expect to be super consistent on the offensive side, but this is something that the Raptors have been able to tap into defensively, where if there's length everywhere and the Knicks don't have that typical inside presence, they want to initiate from the perimeter with guys like Randall, who isn't very good at passing out of that pressure, and guys like Barrett, for example, Jalen Brunson to a lesser degree. You're throwing a lot of length at those drives. You're meeting them a little bit higher, and you're meeting them with a bit more length to blanket the pass out to the corner. It has to go higher because you're passing over length. It might even be a steal. You can't do the laydowns on the interior because there's a hand sitting at their hip and there's a hand extended over top. Like a lob might not be there. And you also don't have like the strictly big guy to kind of make the lower end of the Raptors big guys, because they're big for 3s and 4s and 2s, but they're not big for 5s. You're not making them pay really. And that's where the Knicks really they missed Mitchell Robinson, and the Raptors, they took advantage of that in the front court. Man, Fred, once again, really impressive. We're looking at a guy who there's been quite a bit of driving lately. It seems to me the mix of pull up, the mix of catch and shoot, that the 3-point shot is there. We found it. The misses don't look as bad as they used to. It seems like he's ironed it out. Hopefully this sticks. Hopefully this isn't a hot shooting streak. Hopefully this is just him kind of getting back to basics, getting back to normal, because that would be really huge for the Raptors. Now, I know some people want to trade Fred. I know some people want the team to make decisions that would dismantle them. And whether or not that's the way you want them to go, the way that they do go, it's good that players are playing well. If you want the rebuild or whatever, or the step back, or the trade that improves them now and whatever, guys playing well is never a bad thing. If you're looking at the standings or the tankathon rolls or whatever, I guess this would not be good for you. But yeah, it's good for guys to play well. It's absolutely necessary for their mental health as well, to kind of keep things going, and the vibes for these guys to check into work each and every day. It makes it a lot easier on them and the coaches and everyone else, basically. So at least that's like a nice little thing, right? That guys are playing well. And so yeah, I digress on the playing well aspect. I think you do have to commend both Gary and Fred. This was their best defensive game as a backcourt in some time. I think that how they handled Jalen Brunson was pretty good. The Raptors were much better at meeting him higher, sticking him, not letting him allow to kind of squeak through. There's Harrison Barnes had what looked like a game-winning shot on this the other day, where it's like a bully drive for Harrison Barnes of the Kings, and he gets doubled, and he gets to pivot and squeak through, right? Jalen Brunson is fantastic at that, has done that against the Raptors many times. And when you squeak through, you're leaving 2 guys behind you. There's an opportunity for layups, for laydowns, and he's so good at navigating those small spots of the court, especially in the paint. And the Raptors did a really good job of making sure that that wasn't so available for him. Where most of his points came from in this game, actually, well, over half is the 3-point line and, catch and shoot option. So as far as Jalen Brunson breaking down the Raptors defense, it wasn't as consistent as he typically liked it to be. And the Knicks, who aren't the best 3-point shooting team, I think hit a lot of tougher threes that in some games they don't. I think they're 18 of 41 in this game. That's a really great night from three for them. But as far as the typical forms of creation that they like to rely on, they weren't as capable of doing it against the Raptors tonight. And that does start with kind of clamping down on Brunson, doing a good job on Julius Randle. Obviously, it wanes a bit. He finishes with 23, 19, and 8. Randle, while the decision making, I think, leaves a lot to be desired a lot of the time, we're still looking at a guy who he is extremely talented, extremely big, extremely athletic. When he puts his, the axe to the grindstone, he's going to get numbers. He's going to find a way. And then RJ Barrett, just pretty great shot making for 30 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists. The Raptors, though, even though it's 116 at the end, I think that this defensive performance was better than most that we've seen lately. I know that there were some games where the Hornets end up with like 114 or something, and you look and you say that was bad defense, really bad. In this one, I think there were a lot of possessions where the Raptors were quite good, and the Knicks just a little bit of shot making, and shot making beats all. But the Raptors, if they're able to equal this defensive performance, I think that they'll be able to replicate some more success on this end. Now, are they going to shoot 44% on threes every game themselves? I don't know about that. But the Raptors, they found enough shots, they found enough defense to win this game. I'll be writing about Pascal Siakam kind of over the past 10, 11 games. It'll be out whether you're listening to this in the morning or at night. If you're listening to this at night, it'll be out tomorrow. If you're listening to this in the morning, look forward to it soon at raptorsrepublic.com. You will need to be subscribed to read this piece, but just kind of studying how his shot chart has changed. He's taking shots from different spots on the floor. He's less capable of creation over this stretch. And we're looking at kind of fatigue and the defense that's being played against him and how that factors in. In this game, I think we saw that again. This is a guy who, when he got to the rim, it was on a mismatch and it was with brute force, whether it was Jonas Sims or RJ Barrett. He's not clearing guys and kind of blowing by them, but he's using his body, kind of bullying his way, and then relying on some of those touch shots around the rim or these little faders. Still in this game, though, finishing with 24, 7, and 6. This is the benefit of a player of his caliber, is that even when it's not fully going, he's still going to give you numbers. He's still going to provide like a floor for your team and all that kind of stuff. So I think I was really happy with that. But the starters as a whole, most of the team actually, I think you can walk away happy with their performance. Like Scotty, 19, 7, and 6. Some really fun playmaking, really great burst in the middle of the floor to get to the rim a couple times. As I said, some fun shot making as well. It really like gritty possessions offensively to make sure that he gets to the ball, he finishes the play. Pascal, we talked about Precious applying pressure in the gaps, and he's so athletic. He puts so much pressure on the rim when he has a head of steam. His takeoff points are earlier than other players. He can really surprise rim protectors. He's also, he's faster when he puts the ball on the ground in transition. He puts a lot of pressure there. And 8 of 10 from the line tonight was fantastic. The defense I talked about. Gary, oh my goodness. He had maybe the first like poster of his career. Came through, beat the dig, wrapped the ball up, right-handed hammer. Like this isn't a guy who typically is soaring through the air, right? So he got there, and I believe it was Sims who came over. He posted him. Nice play. And I think he had 3 dunks on the night too. He's 9 of 17 shooting, 6 of 10 from 3, a couple pull-ups, some great finishing in the catch and shoot areas. Very nice. And Fred, of course, 28, 2, 3, and 2. As I said before, this is the 4th game in a row where Fred has been able to lead the Raptors to really great offense and has had really efficient numbers and has been really, really sharp. This game wasn't featuring a ton of playmaking out of the pick and roll. There was one that I guess he should have had an assist, but Pascal left it on the rim. Really nice feed to the roll on that one. It's been a growing part of his game lately. That's something that the Raptors have been doing more, rolling. And Fred also, but the shot making, coming off a screen, whether it's from 3 or in the mid range, that's really nice. Extending the dribble as well too. So lots of good stuff there. And then the bench, as I talked about before, providing that length, getting after it on the glass. And Joe Wieskamp, 5 minutes, didn't have the same level of success. Jeff Doughton Jr., not his best run either. It's tough to do it at the NBA level. Hopefully, those guys continue to get reps in at practice. And for Jeff, with the 905 as well. Reggie Evans Award, I got to give it to Chris Boucher. He is indomitable. That will of his, an indomitable will that drives him forward, continues to do so. Whether it's good or it's bad, I do feel very strongly that Chris leaves it all on the floor. And sometimes that activity can look haphazard. Sometimes it can look problematic, but man, he's really, really impressive in that way. The outcomes aren't always impressive, but I'm always impressed with what he's able to do while he's out there. Top quick reaction comment is from Ronindan or Ronindan, whichever. Quote, this opinion might is not be popular, but Barnes is now doing the Kyle Lowry role. End quote. Hmm. I think that I've talked about this before in some of the breakdowns and in how Scotty Barnes manages lanes in transition, how Scotty Barnes sometimes can outweight the defense for the defense to show cracks. And, there's some plays where you can tell Scotty Barnes is manipulating the second level without the second level really knowing it. Like he can feign ignorance on some plays and use it to his advantage to play make. All those things are things that we saw a lot from Kyle Lowry in his tenure here. But I also don't think that their roles are very similar. But that's okay because they do have a lot of overlap in some of that clever playmaking. But the thing is, Scott is just so much bigger. He's being used in a much different role, and he's being used in a lot of different in their set actions in the free flowing like their motion offense. He's just doing a lot of different things. But they certainly have overlap in things they try to achieve on the floor. And the more he can emulate Kyle Lowry at his size, uh, pretty good, I would imagine. Hopefully that pull-up three in transition, that pull-it comes in some form or fashion during his career. Thanks for writing in, Ronan Dan, and listener. Thanks for tuning in. If you listen to this in the morning or at night, whichever it was, I don't really care. Just glad you're listening. Thanks for letting me talk to you. Yeah, have a blessed day and goodbye.